purpose of today's video is to walk you guys through what I plan on doing on the next 5 weeks or so to get down by like 2 to 3% body fat. When I say 2 to 3% body fat, what that means for me is essentially around 6 pounds. Standing right now at around 195 pounds. Just to give you a little bit of context, today is Saturday, May 18th. I've been dieting and training consistently for about the last 11 weeks, so since like the beginning of March. Basically, what that means is I've been tracking my lifts, tracking my nutrition with about 95% consistency with some like sporadic cheat days and things like that. I do have an event in the next, in 5 weeks, which is why I'm planning to implement this protocol. So I'm going to walk you guys through what's allowed me to basically lose about 15 pounds of fat in the last 11 weeks and what I plan on doing next. If it works for you, great. So essentially, just to give you a little bit of context, like I said, in the last 5 weeks, I was training pretty consistently for around 5 days per week. I wasn't doing much cardio as far as like formal cardio. One thing I did hold myself accountable to is getting like 12 to 14,000 steps a day. The reason I don't do a lot of formal cardio is just because while I'm not credentialed to speak on hormones, I will say that when I do cardio, it just makes me hungrier overall. So the simple inputs that I've been putting in and I plan on putting in the next couple of weeks is just getting my 14,000 steps a day in. I want to say over the last 5 weeks, I've averaged around 12,000 steps. This is crucial for me just because it keeps me at a high energy flux. I do wear an Oura ring, so when I do get the 14,000 steps, it tells me, my total burn, and it's typically around 3,300 calories for my size and body weight. And it just makes the deficit so much easier just when you can rack up days with a little bit bigger of a deficit that essentially compounds over a long enough time. You'll essentially get to your goal faster in a fat loss phase. The second thing that I have dialed in essentially is the nutrition, which is the most important factor. Everybody knows this, whether you're on a keto diet, whether you're on intermittent fasting, the most important thing is to be in a calorie deficit. So for me, I use a combination of tracking and being in a calorie deficit with a whole foods diet. I think one thing that pretty much every fitness expert can agree on is that when you eat more whole unprocessed foods, you typically tend to have better outcomes in the long run, just because you're not sending weird signals to your body. Like me, for example, when I have a cheat meal or when I have like an ice cream or something like that in the past, it's not something I really eat anymore. I typically want more of that in the coming days and in the future. Like, eating a huge cheat meal, the only thing when you're done that you think about is when's the next cheat meal, for the most part, at least me. For the macros, as far as like protein, carbs, fat, I really think the most important ones to track, especially if you're eating like a whole foods diet, is really just carbs and protein. Unless you like eating ketogenic, then this really does have nothing to do with you. But for me, what I've noticed is that when I eat less carbs, just because I am somebody who eats carbs, I tend to lose a little bit of fullness and water in the muscle. Again, what I would consider a low carb diet is essentially for somebody like me who's around 200 pounds, anything less than 1 gram per pound of body weight, I would consider a low carb diet. So what I'm trying to do these days is just keep my carbs consistent at around the body weight that I'm at. And this helps me keep my muscles fuller. For training, I think it's pretty simple. I mean, you can look up any training program online that has adequate volumes. I would say the experts say around 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. As long as you're doing something in that range for all your muscle groups and trying to make progress over time with your weights, sets, reps, as long as you're pushing the envelope and trying to raise that standard, I think that you'll have a better outcome at the end of your fat loss phase. Again, just to recap on the cardio, I won't be doing much formal cardio, just getting my 14,000 steps a day in. I will be doing 2 to 3 boxing training sessions a week, so it's like technical training and sparring. And then as far as the nutrition, I didn't mention it, but I'll be getting around 2,200 calories per day. And this will help me create that big deficit without being too hungry. Just to kind of wrap up the bonus tips and like the 80/20 of all this, from what I've seen, my experience is I don't really do alcohol. I just make better decisions when I don't do alcohol. I haven't done much alcohol in the last 6 months to a year or so. Another thing that I want to reiterate is just eating high quality unprocessed foods, just for mental clarity, has been a game changer for me. And then the final thing is when it comes to having food and things like that, having a plan is always better than making decisions in the moment. You'll always make better decisions when you have a filter for them, I think, as far as dieting and fat loss goes. Uh, and that's pretty much it. Some of the staples that are in my diet as far as foods are like grass-fed beef, eggs, some fruits, rice. From time to time I'll do a salad, like a Greek salad or something like that. I don't really do like vegetables for the most part, but I do think they have a lot of use as far as dieting is concerned. Like pretty much if you eat lean meats, vegetables, and fruit, it's impossible for you to be fat. Um, so that's what's worked for me. That's what I plan on doing in the next 6 weeks or so, 5 to 6 weeks, and hope it helps.